questions for 100 people. Welcome to the experiment. I'm Bill Correll, and this is my investigation. It's my research project to gather data from 100 beautiful human beings for the sole purpose to see what actually happens across the interviews. Conversations, really. The questions are fixed, and all the interviews will remain consistent, with the variable being the actual participants themselves and their answers. So it's as if I'm having you, Jen, come sit on my porch to share your thoughts so that I can learn about people. We are looking forward to what we're going to learn when we're complete with 100 interviews, but we're mostly interested in the people, the process, and your particular story. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce my guest, but well, how about if I let you do that for me? What is your full name?
I'm Jennifer Gezequel, is how you say my last name. It looks funny, but yeah, I inherited that name from my husband.
He was very generous with that, huh?
Yes, a very unique last name. There's not very many of us in the US.
Well, it's when you hand a business card to someone, if you do, I'm sure it takes a moment for them to get centered. And a lot of people aren't sure if they want to actually say it, try to say it out loud, like they would offend you, but the ones who are genuine just goes, what the hell is this?
I know. It's usually Gezequel. That's usually what I hear. And I
Because
jokingly say it rhymes with Jezebel, because it does.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
But equal sounds like it's some sort of a mathematical formula or something.
Right?
So no middle name?
Oh, Elizabeth is my middle name. Yeah.
Yep.
Not really a family name, but a biblical name. You know, I grew up in a Catholic family and my mom loved Elizabeth.
Nice. So, a little bit more about that and how you got named. Were they expecting you, and were you going to be a Jennifer Elizabeth before you were born?
That's, it's probably part of my story is my parents were very young when they had me. They went to high school together, and my mom was in her junior year of high school. And my dad was going into his freshman year of college. And when over the summer I was discovered. So, but this is 1973, and Roe versus Wade was very, I'm very thankful that I'm here, that I am here. And honestly, I don't think that either sets of my parents would have it, grandparents would have it any other way, and my parents. My parents did get married a couple months after, and it was a love story. They were married for almost 51 years just before my mom passed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I appreciate what you're saying, because there were so many people back in the day that first it was upsetting news and then they considered it a miracle. And that's kind of nice when the stork comes calling and leaves a calendar invite for about 7 or 8 months from now, right?
I was the first grandchild on my mom's side of the family, and very close to both sets of grandparents.
Nice. I'm sure that came with its attendant pluses and minuses.
Right, exactly. So back then, my mom and dad, didn't know what they were having. I don't know if there was ever a guess. I can't remember. There was a boy name picked out, and I cannot remember what it was, but it was probably another, I think it was another J boy name. But they just like Jennifer, and obviously in that generation there was a lot of Jennifers. It was a popular name.
Yeah.
And I mean, I graduated high school with probably like 5 other Jennifers.
Yes, absolutely.
My maiden name was Zielinski. My dad is full-blooded Polish, and so I'm half Polish, and my mom half Irish, and half or a quarter Italian and a quarter French, and very European, I guess. Aren't we?
I would say that's kind of a really good goulash. You know that?
It really is. It really, really is.
Put all of those together, you've got a taste for fine wine, but you don't mind having too much beer every once in a while, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Exactly. We ate good.
Yeah, so that's like that old Irish joke. Three Irishmen walked out of a bar. Oh, it could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. My grandmother, my mom's mom, full-blooded Irish, the red hair, freckles, blue eyes, and all.
yeah,
All of it, and a little bit of attitude to boot.
yeah. I love all of that. I really do, especially people who just authentically wear it. You know that
Yeah.
old saying, "If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. So on to question number two. What is your favorite nickname that most people don't know?
Well, it's funny. So I was given the name Jennifer, and everyone calls me Jen. Like where I live, I live somewhere where I didn't grow up, so
Right.
everybody knows me as Jen, a variation of Jennifer. But when my family comes around and other people hear them call me Jenny, that's like they're shocked. And it sounds, it's not like an uncommon nickname for Jennifer, but they're like, Jenny, really? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what my family calls me. And so not a lot of people where I am right now, and I've lived where I am now for almost 25 years, have never heard me called Jenny.
Yeah.
And they think it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know among Irish men, to have a designation of Y or IE at the end of your name is
Mhm.
respectful. Like like handsome Johnny and sweet William, who now Mr. Billy, all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And they grow up and they live into that name as as something to be worn like a badge of honor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I answer to all of them, but I didn't really. There was probably one other kind of a cute nickname, and the only one who called me this was really my dad, and he called me Jeff. And that was, I think, funny because I don't know if maybe when I was learning to say my name Jennifer, I would say Jeffiner.
Oh,
And
that's
so every once in a while, my dad would say, "Hey, Jeff," and nobody else called me that.
that's an inside joke
Yeah,
that you'd had to be there, or had somebody tell you. So,
exactly.
but thank you for letting me in on it. Nobody else will know. A lot
All
of people,
right.
okay. So, when did you first notice what color hair you had?
You know, this is funny because everyone in my family had, brown hair, dark brown hair. We all inherited that Italian darker side of things. No one had that red fair skin and all of that. So it wasn't really when I noticed what color hair I had, it was when I noticed there were other colors of hair. And that was probably my kindergarten year when I started kindergarten, and I had a couple of friends who had blonde hair, and I'm like,
Right.
where'd that come from? you
Yeah.
know? And then, of course, after I had my son, I was 28, and then I noticed gray hair. So then, and now, so this is all fake because I also inherited the gray hair gene, and I would be almost all gray if I let it go. I'm not ready to do that though.
Someday, perhaps. But
Someday.
I'm also noticing you don't go two-tone either, because there's a lot of people that like sport that inch and a half down by the hairline, and then have it colored from there on out, and that
Well,
could
I
be a
just had that taken care of. So no, no, I don't do that two tone. I'm not into that yet. I'm not prepared for that one yet.
I gotcha. And when you were a teenager, did you have long hair or short hair?
Long, really long hair, probably to the middle of my back, and that day and age, and actually a lot of people don't know my hair's actually straight, but I get perms. I always hated my straight hair. I mean, you always want what you don't have, they say,
Right.
right? But I have no volume and oomph to my straight hair, and it bothered me. So I would start out, and I used to get some body perms, and I liked that, but during high school when my hair was really long, I got those spiral perms where I was in the salon for half a day, and it cost my retail job paycheck just to get.
they say the same in beauty, no pain, no gain, right?
Absolutely. I actually say that a lot.
I had a friend who lived in my neighborhood, and her name was Vicky Acton. Her mom had hair exactly like yours. I mean, especially when it was humid out, it just went like this, right?
Oh yeah.
But, but Vicky had curly hair too, and she used to, and that was long, but she used to have her mother iron it, to keep
Yes.
it nice and straight.
My mom in the 70s had really, really, really long hair, and she had a little bit of wave to it. But yeah, she talked about back in the day, they literally took an iron to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, because I mean, as you go through different fads in life, whatever the teen magazines were showing is kind of the cool thing. I mean, everybody tried to follow suit somehow. Some of
Yeah.
us could, some of us couldn't, and you know, so here you are, and you have just divulged a whole lot of cool information about your coiffure. Yes, so. What is your favorite thing to do to intentionally waste time?
Well, nowadays, honestly, it's probably scroll through social media. I like if I'm just, if I'm, say, like the other day, I took my dogs to the groomer and I just wanted to waste some time. I didn't feel like walking through a grocery store or anything like that. I sat in my car and I just scrolled, for some entertainment. I'm not
Is
really a
there
game player.
are you a Facebooker or an Instagrammer or a Pinterester or what?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
More so Facebooker. But I did have a MySpace account like years ago when we first started going. But I love Pinterest for ideas, and I have a lot of different folders and and dreams and that and Instagram. I love using. Well, I have that tied to my Facebook page, so when
Sure.
I'm posting my photos, it's shared to Instagram where I have several like younger cousins that are more, into the Instagram.
Yeah.
So they get to see like some of the pictures that I post of my flowers, or if I go out and say the northern lights are out one night and I snap some pictures of the northern lights. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, we'll get into how we met somewhere along the way here, but in the conversation about social media, in full disclosure, you and I are poke buddies, aren't we?
We are.
Diligently every single day, never miss, right?
Right. Exactly.
I
It's
love that
good.
about you. It always allows me, even though I mean, good Lord, 15 hours, 16 hours apart on a drive or
Yep.
longer. Every single day I get to have you in my life and for a moment, be present to you, whether I'm looking at your page or not. It's just a very cool little thing. And I appreciate you. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So, Jen, what's your favorite movie to watch alone?
So this is funny. I love Christmas, and it's not one movie, but I am a Hallmark Christmas movie watcher.
Okay.
And honestly, I could watch those any time of the year. And that also goes with listening to Christmas music. My kids would make fun of me. Yeah, I know I'm one of those. They make me happy. I don't know. It's just I really get into stuff that makes me happy,
Yeah.
makes me smile. And I am not a good singer at all, but I'll crank up a Christmas music and sing along, and my kids would just roll their eyes like, oh God. So when those radio stations would flip the switch to go to all Christmas music, I knew the day and everything, and my kids would not want to ride with me because I had control of the radio.
They knew there was going to be a captive concert going on, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, see
Yeah.
the Hallmark movies, some of the ones that I have watched, and I can't tell you that I'm a real expert in that area, but there's some of them I think they make you cry before they make you smile, you know?
They all are, have a little emotion. A lot of them that I watch are kind of like the chick flick, where there's a love story that happens at the end and they're a happy ending. But yeah, some of them really tug at your heartstrings a little bit. But honestly, there's a lot of bad acting. I mean, quite honestly, but some of these stories are could be just anybody, and it always seems to be set in like small town USA, and some big corporate person go in and and have a change of heart and change their life and love that you
Yeah,
know so I think
yeah.
that's what resonates with me a little bit.
Yeah, whenever there's a transformation, it's an amazing thing to be a part of, and to be present to. So out of, I mean, there's many Hallmark movies. Are which would you say would might be your favorite ones?
Well, I can't even think of names. I mean, I can just think of like there was this one, God, so my brain is mush. Like I still have brain fog, and we'll get into that later about why I do, but there's this one where they started an ice cream shop, and yeah, you know where I'm going. Yeah, you probably know. And so there was, oh gosh, I think it was involved a dairy farm, and they were going to lose this dairy farm and this ice cream shop. They had to really make the money to keep this dairy farm open. I mean, it was just I just love that one, for whatever reason. And a
Yeah.
lot of them will, as we gear up toward Christmas, Hallmark, they'll play these shows over and over again. So I get a chance to watch them over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great time of year, for emotions, to come to the surface, no doubt about it. No, I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing all of these details. So this is going to be a fun one with you. If you were to have an action figure made of you, what would its superpower be, and what colors would its uniform be?
Okay, so colors, definitely red. Red is like my color, even though I'm wearing black. So is my favorite color. And the other one would be purple because number one, that's my husband's favorite color. It was our wedding colors too. We'll be married next week, 30 years.
Good for you.
And so red and purple are the colors of love, of course. But and this has literally been my goal in life, so is to make everybody smile. Like you come in contact with someone who is absolutely miserable and they exude it. They won't look you in the eye. And like I just would talk to them, just to try and get a little peek of a smile. But so my superpower, would be just to bring happiness and make someone happy. you know, it sounds funny or cheesy, but that has always been a goal of mine is to, crack a smile, just make somebody smile because it can actually change, their narrative, their mindset, for the rest of the day.
Yes. Yeah, there's a very, very smart person who once said the quality of your output is directly correlated to the quality of your input. And if
Mhm.
you're happy and smiling, it's so much better because not only are you doing something that you like and love, but you're also paying attention to it, and probably being a little bit more mindful than you would be if you were not happy. You'd be concerned about whatever it is that was making you unhappy, right?
Absolutely. I think my parents told me they were pretty sure I was born with a smile,
Yeah.
even in the darkest of times, I might be crying, but I will be almost smiling at the same time. It's weird to say
Yeah.
that, but
Well, they say, there's fine line between both of those things, and they're just kind of like the opposite reaction, but coming from the same place. So that's, I
right.
think that, very astute.
Yeah.
So, with your uniform in hand, what did you want to grow up to be when you were 5 years old?
Without a doubt, I wanted to be a teacher. And yeah, I ended up in human service, and that's okay, but I have honestly been a teacher in various different ways. So
Right.
but I wanted to be a teacher in a classroom. I love kids. And but I didn't go that path, but That's what I wanted to be.
So, do you mind maybe saying a little bit more about the human services? That means different things, I think, to different people. What exactly were
Absolutely.
you doing?
I was in the nonprofit sector. So I worked for a small nonprofit. I live in the very rural part of Michigan in the Upper Thumb area. Okay, and the services are limited in terms of assisting families that need, whether they're at risk or they're just down on their luck at this time. But the organization I worked for, we aimed to connect families, especially that had children, to services to help them be successful. And then I kind of, that nonprofit, it folded up because grant money, it dries up, and
Yep.
so those doors closed. I worked at a health department for a short time, um, and mainly I did informational and referrals to different resources in the organization. And honestly, that's where I almost, if you've ever heard of United Ways 211, if you call 211, they might connect you with different resources. That's kind of like what I was in our area.
Yep.
And a lot of people in different, like, say, the health department, or in our state, it's called Department of Health and Human Services, or people might say Child Protective Services, or independent agencies. The different human service organizations for senior citizens would call me because I, for some reason, was astute about finding out what the resources were in our area. And so I would help people connect them to, or point them at least in the right direction if I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I had worked with several other human service agencies. The next one being, I worked for a child advocacy center where it was very intense, and we were a center where we forensically interviewed children that had alleged abuse.
Wow.
So that, yeah, I worked for them for several years, and I coordinated that program. And it was very intense. And so I ended up taking on a role at our local women's domestic violence shelter as
Yeah.
the manager there. Beyond that, because we worked very closely with the previous program I worked for, and I managed that for a couple of years. Very heart wrenching stories that you see. Very important work. It takes a special type of person to work in that kind of setting.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I worked with a homeless shelter here in town for 2 years as a consultant, and
Hmm.
also providing their connectivity and computer stuff. But it sounds to me like you did manage, in the human services, to also accomplish the other goal, which you can't be in that role without educating people and moving. When you say making them successful, that means kind of transforming their skill sets, their habits, everything else that's kind of got them in that sort of on their knees, and trying to just get up and do something positive state. That's a very wonderful thing.
Absolutely. I worked a lot with different variations of people that had different variations of mental health conditions too.
Right.
And that can be a struggle. Some people cannot live on their own, but some people can. But it's still a struggle. But connecting them to the resources that can help support them, that's really important.
Yeah, and along with poverty, oftentimes comes some sort of an addiction situation as well. So there's
A lot of
all
that.
of this soup of adversity, that it really and you're the kind of person, from the brief time that I've known you, that if you really take to somebody, I could see you, being let down big time and having your heart broken by people who didn't make it, through no
Yeah,
fault of
you
yours.
take it
But
to heart.
yeah, when you know that recidivism in that whole deal is just it's
It's
part
very
of the
high.
it's part of the
Yeah,
it's part of what it's all about. Yeah.
it is. It is. Yeah. It's very hard, and took a lot of things, personal. I've always been a people pleaser type of person, and I know that's not always good, but there's, different aspects of that that kind of has really helped those people that I was helping connect with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I really am enjoying this, and I can't wait to hear your answer to the next question. What is your greatest accomplishment?
Without a doubt, my kids.
Yep.
Um, to be able to create humans and then as their mother to grow them inside of me, like, and to birth humans, that is, I never even thought about, that that, that very thing growing a human inside of me when I was younger. I knew I wanted to be a mom, but
Yes.
that is such an amazing, experience, for sure. And then being able to raise them. I mean, being a parent is one of the hardest jobs. It's not easy, doesn't come with an instruction manual. You get advice from everybody and anybody, whether you like it or not. And really, everybody's situation is completely different. And then being able to raise them, into adulthood, I mean, and watch them flourish and you know, become someone is absolutely amazing.
So that is a great accomplishment. I completely agree with you. Who is your favorite person to listen to?
I have to say, my son. So my son is 23, and he is the smartest kid. Of course, every mom says that about their kid, but my son is into computer and technology as well, the IT world. And when he starts talking, I have no idea what he's saying, but I just engaged.
Yeah.
Like, I literally look at the kid and say, yeah, I have no idea what you're saying, but I really like it. I mean, and then I'm being absolutely genuine because
Yeah.
it just amazes me, and how much he's a sponge. He's like his dad, just constantly learning, So it's amazing. I love listening to him.
Yeah, I mean, people like that that are wired, for ongoing growth and development. It's easy for them to be satisfied because there's always something more to learn.
Yep. Absolutely. That's my husband is constantly training. He's a police officer, and he is actually an instructor for many different types of things in the law enforcement world. And he constantly is training, which is extremely important in his field, of course, to constantly be training in different aspects of that. But I think I call him a professional student because he just loves to
Yeah.
learn. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what, again, people who have a question are much better than people who have answers in my in my book, because people who have answers have either decided to be upset about it, be resigned about it. People who have questions are like, okay, let's get on to the next thing here. This ain't working so well. It's not didn't go quite as planned, but that's all right. Let's turn the page and get to the next thing.
Right, right, exactly. And I always tell people that, if you have a question, it's likely another question that someone else is thinking but doesn't want to say it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that your son is your favorite person to listen to, and I have a feeling, being a mom, that there's something that you're observing only a mother could, and it's probably who he's being and not what he's saying.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I made that. That's always kinda cool.
I
I feel
know.
that way around my 2 girls too.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So please complete this sentence. When I grow up, I'd like to.
I always wanted to be a master gardener,
Yep.
okay? I for the longest time that go through those courses to be a master gardener. And, as part of my story, which we may learn here, I involve a lot of gardening and flowers in my life. And I have my mom's youngest brother. He is a horticulturist, and he taught the Master Gardener class. And he said to me one day, he's like, Jen, you do not need to go take that class because you're already a Master Gardener. You are already a Master Gardener. In fact, you probably know far more than some of those people that take that class. You don't
Yeah.
need a manual, to go do that. So that meant a lot to me as someone who, went to school, to come up in that field, to be told that when I didn't go to school for that. Everything I learned from my family or by experience. And it makes me happy. So I just, envelop myself in it. But that's what I wanted to be, a master gardener.
That's amazing. And so now that you've accomplished that, now what would you like to be?
Um, I don't, it sounds really, really cheesy, but throwing myself into gardening and the flowers has really helped ground me. And I use that word a lot
Yeah.
now to kind of ground myself, but to be able to share that with others.
Yep.
That is the biggest thing. I want to be able to share that with others so people understand that there's so much more in life, and we are here on this God-given earth, for a very special reason, and to share that. And that's honestly what I mean, yes, I love flowers and all that, but now to share that love, to spread the happiness or a little bit of joy. um and I feel like I'm starting to do that.
Yeah.
I have a long way to go, but and probably a lot of things that are in my path too, but um yeah, to be able to share that with everyone in some kind of way.
So I actually feel like you're starting to get into the next question. So I'm just going to say it out loud and then you can keep talking because I love listening to you. Um, what's the most important thing in your life right now?
The most important thing is family, without a doubt.
Right.
That's family is number one, and finding and keeping and sharing the joy in my life. That's so important. Because we all have all kinds of challenges in our life, and it could be a small thing or a really, really big thing,
Yeah.
but how what we do, to continue to live, to find the joy, to spread it, is so important, is so extremely important in the quality of how we live.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I've never talked so deep in my whole entire life, but it's so important. And honestly, my family, who is the most important thing, is the reason why, honestly, I've gotten to into gardening, grounding myself, these beautiful
Sure.
flowers, and nature in general. Like, there's just so many things that that have always been there, but I'm hyper aware of, and I've just really, really come to notice more. So,
Yeah.
and I appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I can hear that. It sounds like simple and yet at the same time not easy.
Exactly. Exactly. I know, like, oh, a flower is really easy, or, going out into nature is easy, but to be hyper aware, to really like envelop yourself in the surroundings, it can be so peaceful. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately, what I've allowed to come into my life in order for me to spread it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, this is all kind of tying together real nicely. What would you like to leave in the world after your life is done?
Well, without a doubt, the so I have a beautiful garden in memory of my daughter, which we will probably be talking about here. Um, in a town that I used to work in, and my husband works in the town. And honestly, it was a garden to be in memory of her, but that garden has become so much more. It has become so much more to my family. It's become a healing ground for our family. We call it garden therapy. You
Yeah.
know, we laugh out there. We enjoy ourselves. We get our hands dirty. We ground ourselves. But I have met so many people that have come into that garden and they tell me, they sit there on the memorial bench and they just, are so at peace to be able for that to continue after I am gone. And I just hope and pray that someone continues to maintain that garden so people can continue enjoying it. I never ever began to think that memorial garden would be that for other people.
Yeah.
Not at all. And that's not wasn't the intent, but now it is.
That's a very special byproduct. It's kinda like when you raise your children expecting that they'll just be good citizens and then they turn out to be difference makers, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're at the 13th question, and this is your opportunity. You do you have a baker you go to?
Well, not on a regular, but there is a bakery, that we've picked up some donuts and cupcakes and all of that. Yeah.
I've got a baker, and they're Italians, funny enough, and, their name is Mata, and whenever I go there, if I get a dozen donuts or I get a dozen cupcakes or I get a dozen scones or whatever it is, okay? I always get a 13th one, and so this is your baker's question. What is the thing that most people misunderstand about you?
This is easy for me because and this started when I worked in human services. People never understood why I might talk to someone for a long time. And especially someone who might have a pretty significant mental health challenge where that other person might think they're almost annoying, right?
Right.
I enjoy talking to people. There's a couple different reasons why. Number one, I, I many of these people don't have someone actually listen to them. And that means so much to them. Someone is actually conversing with me and they're listening to me. And I engage into the conversation and I'm very genuine in the conversation as well. But I've also realized when I talk to someone at length and I ask a lot of questions, not trying to be overwhelming, that
Right?
I learn more and more about that person, but I might also learn something that they might not have shared with anybody else, being able for me to help them, point them into the right direction for help.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people I have method to my madness. You might not like that I'm on a phone call for a crisis call or something for a half hour, 45 minutes, but there's a reason why I am. And one, I'm genuine, and two, you can always glean more information to be able to help that person properly.
Yeah, and you're an expert in conversational, you know,
I
things
like
that
to talk,
you'll know when the objective has been met too. And
Absolutely.
there is one more thing that I wanna tease out here a little bit, and that is I'm guessing that the kinds of conversations that you're having with people, the venues that you're having conversations with people, and the subject matter has changed pretty dramatically in the last few years.
Absolutely, and the last 3 years for sure. Um, Ever since my daughter's passing, perspectives have changed, my thoughts have changed, priorities have changed, and so, lines of questions have changed, and, I did go back to work after my daughter had passed, which that was very difficult, but I'll tell you what, there are so many people out there. I mean, we all, like you and I had this conversation the other day, we all deal with grief at some point in our life. We do.
Yes.
Um, but there are so many people out there who are dealing with other challenges that have not properly grieved a significant loss.
Yeah.
and it just like, wow, you know? So I had several young ladies in the domestic violence shelter that said, "Yeah, I lost a young child or I lost a pregnancy and I never told anybody."
Right.
I never Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an extraordinary period of time here. I appreciate you one heck of a lot. Is there anything else that you want to say or share, or anything else that you just in terms of wrapping up?
No, I think I kind of, shared I shared a lot. I shared a
Okay.
lot and family and then the way that I have I don't want to say altered my mindset, my narratives, my life has changed in the past 3 years is definitely, there's been challenges, but I'm always finding a way that to live and find that joy and there's a reason for me to be here and to continue and to be the best person that I can be.
I get it. I really do. Uh, I just have one more question for you, and that do you have any questions of me?
Oh my gosh. Gosh, you put me on the spot because I didn't even think about that. I always like to think and be prepared,
Hey,
Oh,
sometimes life just comes at you, right? And you don't
I
have to,
know. I
but I'm
know. Life
giving you
just
an
comes.
opportunity if you like.
I know, exactly. You mentioned you have 2 daughters, and I always love to hear about people's kids. How old are your kids?
Well, my older one just turned 45, and the younger one just turned 43. So
Oh my
my
goodness.
my baby girls are all grown up now. They're in responsible jobs. They meandered through it, in their 20s and 30s and everything, and have landed really, really well and are reasonably adjusted. I don't think we damaged them too badly. But, they're very special to me, and they're both very intelligent, hardworking, wonderful human beings that are making a difference in their jobs and in their lives, so, that's all I could ask for.
Oh, absolutely. And are you a grandpa?
I am. I have 2 beautiful, grandsons.
Oh,
And, they are both both at an arm load and a heck of a lot of fun and full of surprises. The older one, just turned 13, so he's finally a teenager. He was really looking forward to this. And the younger one, is gonna be 12, in December. So, they come and stay at our house for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. They were here for 2 full weeks this year because it was in between school getting out and then soccer camp and boxing and whatever other things that they're doing, but we had a ball with them. It was a lot of fun having them here.
oh, that's so exciting. I always like to hear about people's families. That's something I usually ask of everyone if I don't know them well, I always like to learn about their families.
Yeah. Well, Jen, I want to thank you for sharing yourself and your story and your thoughts. You're obviously an accomplished woman. You have made so many things happen, and we can't show people at home what your garden looks like, but the pictures that you have shown me, conversation didn't prepare me. They are just so over the top in terms of beautiful, just fantastic looking. They almost look like they're AI. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. A lot of people will mention that. It's you appreciate it much more when you're there. A lot
Yeah.
of people say that. I have a lot of girlfriends that I Zoom with, in the grief community, and they recently visited back in June, and they said the pictures and the videos you do, Jen, don't do it justice because to be in the presence of this and to be able to feel it.
Yeah.
That is what I'm hoping everybody can experience at some point.
Well, I'm touched, and I'm looking forward to coming and seeing it in person myself one of these days.
You must.
Well, thank you again. And
Absolutely.
yes, so we're going to be signing off now. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are simple questions for 100 people. And if you'd like to be on this podcast and have a nice conversation, and maybe take a little bit of a moment to look inward and share it with people, I think it would be lovely to have you get in contact with me. And at the same time, I want to invite you to reach out to someone that you know by email, telephone, text, carrier pigeon, however you do it. Note wrapped around a rock through the window. Just let them know that the world is good for you because they are here. And if they ever need you, that you will be there for them. Okay. So bye for now. And thank you for tuning in.
Oh, neat. Yay.
You've been listening to Simple Questions for 100 People, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.